in the Boynton Beach community. I am honored to represent Stanley Davis Jr.'s family. His mom is here. And while I'm honored to represent them with my co-counsel, Jasmine Rand, and attorney Ben Crump, I'm still saddened and just upset every day that in order for what's right and just in these situations, we constantly have to demand it, and we have to beg for what should be normal course, which is an officer with a documented history of violent acts. He shouldn't be working. He should be terminated. He should be fired. I am going to introduce everyone who will be speaking today. We have Bishop Masters, Tamika Mallory, founder of Until Freedom, as well as her co-founders, Angela Pinto and Masan Lennon, who will also, and Tamika will be speaking on their behalf. We are hoping that Attorney Ben Crump is able to appear via Zoom, but as you know, police excessive force cases and police violence keep him extremely busy. And that's it. So we'll hear from co-counsel Jasmine Rand, and then Ms. Shannon, and the Bishop, and Tamika Mallory.
And feel free to move the microphones around whenever whoever's going to be speaking.
Sure.
So as Attorney Saran Robinson just stated, Officer Mark Stone has a very long and documented history of police misconduct. As you know, Attorney Benjamin Crump and myself have represented clients like Michael Brown and George Floyd in the past. And I can say without reservation, this is one of the worst files that I've ever seen on an officer, one of the worst documented histories of police brutality, of racism, and that has caused the death of 3 Black citizens in Boynton Beach. Mark Stone has a 20-year documented history of terrorizing Black citizens in Boynton Beach. He has the blood of Cyrus Deal in his hands, who died during a high-speed police pursuit. He has the blood of Jaden Reardon on his hands, a 5-year-old child that was also killed in the victim when he was conducting another high-speed police pursuit. And most recently, he has the blood of Stanley Davis III on his hands, the 3rd victim who was killed in the course of an unlawful high-speed police suit conducted by Officer Mark Stone. We are here today because we demand his termination. We demand that the city of Boynton Beach immediately terminates Officer Mark Stone from its force to protect the citizens of Boynton Beach. In addition to the 3 deaths on Officer Stone's hands, he has been found guilty of conducting 5 high-speed police suits dating all the way back to 2004. He has been involved in 5 car accidents. He has caused 3 deaths, as we just discussed, and he even has a documented use of a racial slur dating back over a decade. Now, here's what we don't see in his employment file, but we have verified through independent witnesses. There is an active case against Officer Mark Stone for beating a Black man while restrained. In fact, we've even been told that there's video evidence of that beating. That is apparently an ongoing civil matter. He's represented by another attorney locally. We've also come to find out that he has been found to have sicked dogs on a restrained African-American man, apparently another ongoing case against Officer Stone. Now, it's completely unfathomable that the city of Boynton Beach failed to terminate Officer Stone prior to the death of Stanley Davis III. You're going to hear from his mother in just a moment. And what she is going to tell you is that if the city of Boynton Beach had fired Officer Mark Stone the first time he conducted a high-speed police chase that resulted in the death of Cyrus Deal, 5-year-old Jaden Reardon would be alive today. If Officer Mark Stone had been fired the second time he conducted a high-speed police chase that resulted in the death of yet another Black citizen, Stanley Davis III would still be alive today. And what we are demanding, what Tamika Mallory with Until Freedom has come here to tell you today, is that we demand the immediate termination of Officer Mark Stone before he causes the death of a 4th Black citizen of Boynton Beach. Without further ado, I will introduce Bishop Masters, who will make an introduction for Tamika Mallory with Until Freedom, And you will hear from Tamika in just a moment.
Can you identify yourself, please, and spell your name so we can have it on record?
Attorney Jasmine Rand, JASMINE RAND. I'm with Rand Law LLC, and I'm co-counsel with Attorney Sue Ann Robinson and Attorney Benjamin Crump.
Thank you, and if everybody can do the same, that'd be great. Okay.
I'm Bishop Thomas Masters, Minister Shannon, the mother, and also the International Ambassador for the World Conference of Mayors. What a shame, just listening to the attorney to lay out the case, it's shameful. Let me just say that this young man was killed just a half block from the intersection of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. died, gave his life for freedom, liberty, justice, peace with the Vietnam War. Now, why did I say that? Why is that important? A half a block from Dr. King. Because Dr. King, as you know, was a gladiator for freedom and justice. Dr. King traveled across the country, all around this country, Selma to Montgomery. Dr. King was invited into Selma. Today, we have come to invite Sister Tamika here into Palm Beach County. I talked to Sheila Banks a few minutes ago, the aunt of Corey Jones. Sheila said to me, Bishop Masters, here we go again. It was Corey then. Now it's Stanley Davis III. We welcome Sister Tamika here to our city, to our county. The same county, Corey Jones, Stanley Davis Jr. So many, and the list goes on. Stanley Davis III goes on and on. Sister Tamika is the Harriet Tubman, the Sojourner Truth of today's movement. When I see her, I see Malcolm, I see Martin, I see all of the brothers and sisters who've been involved in this movement. I don't really need to introduce this young lady.
Certainly.
This young lady is somebody. She was one of the 5 women that organized the National Women's March in Washington, D.C., the largest march ever. Tamika Mallory was one of those great organizers. Tamika Mallory has been around this country fighting for justice, and she's here today on our invitation nationally to continue the fight, whether it was Breonna Taylor in Louisville, Kentucky, or whether it was George Floyd in Minnesota. The list goes on and on. Tamika, welcome, and we're so honored to have you, our beloved sister, to join the movement here in Palm Beach County.
Thank you so much, Bishop Masters. And I certainly do not need, nor did I want an introduction to be here. I am humbled by being called. And I just want to say to you, Shannon, that I'm sorry that we have to be here. You know, I'm very sorry that we're gathering again. And I was thinking and talking to the co-founders of Until Freedom. I have attorney Angelo Pinto here and also my son Lennon. I was thinking that we continue to meet one another under these circumstances. And yet there are people who say that we're race baiters and, you know, that we're troublemakers. And yet I would never have been here. I would not have been asked to come if it had not been for the fact that an officer has killed children. This officer, Mr. Sullen, is killing children. And so we've been invited because, and I asked you, Sue, a few moments ago, this happened in December. So we're talking about all of this time going by that nothing is being done about the death of Black people and particularly young Black people. And we call it murder. And I know that is something that we'll have to deal with at a later time. But for now, the demand for a termination is basic. It is very basic. That is just the beginning. And no family should have to ask for the termination of someone who has the type of rap sheet. Let's call it what it is. This is a rap sheet that we have here of all of the infractions
and the violations of the civil rights of the residents of Boynton Beach. This is a rap sheet. And at what point will the department, the police department, take it upon itself to say we must do what is right and we must protect the citizens that actually pay for you to work in their communities? This officer should have been terminated. And at this point, what we're saying is that nationally, we have to come in to this community and ensure that the residents are protected, because we cannot depend on the police department to do so. God bless this family that their 13-year-old baby, a baby was killed in December, and to date, nothing. In fact, you have a police department that seems to be trying to sweep it under the rug as if nothing has happened here. It makes no sense that people have to fly into this city from all over the country to stand with this local community to demand a termination, again, which is basic. We are saying that immediately, this officer should not be on leave, paid leave, or any other authority within the police department in Boynton Beach. He should be fired, and then there should be further investigation so that more charges from our perspective until freedom can come forth. Thank you very much.
Can you just say your name one more time?
My name is Tamika, that is Tamika Mallory, Mallory.
As legal counsel, we're here today with Tamika Mallory to lift up that rug. That all of Officer Stone's dirt has been swept under. We're gonna make the city of Boynton Beach face what they don't wanna face. We're gonna make them face all of that dirt that has been swept under the rug, all of his past misconduct, the number of citizens who have lost their lives because of him, and the number of citizens who have suffered from racial discrimination for far too long. We're gonna have Mother Shannon Thompson, the mother of Stanley Davis III, address you and share her perspective with you.
Could you slide the mics over, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Hi, I am the mother of Stanley Dale Davis III, and as you guys are aware, this is heartbreaking as he is my only child. He had just turned 13, not even 11 days. And it's unfortunate that he was chased to his death and taken away from not only myself, but the family and the community. As they previously stated, we want Mark Schoen terminated immediately, as this should have been happened. And had he been terminated with the prior incidents, my son would still be here with us. And moving forward, we're calling for his termination so that no other family has to endure the pain that I'm suffering from, my family suffering from, the community, as well as the children are suffering from.
We hope that Stanley Davis III will become the catalyst for change within the Boynton Beach Police Department.
I want to add that Prophet Bryce Graham, a young man who has been with the family from day one, could not be here, but he's here in spirit. He's also one of the ministers who have joined the ministerial spiritual team with the mom and dad.
Yes.
And we want to recognize him for his efforts. He's been there from day one.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, we're ready for questions.
Ms. Thompson, I'm curious, your reaction to the police not releasing his name and calling the officer the victim under the law. How do you feel about that?
I was very disgusted with that, as my son was the victim, our family is the victim. And to me, that was a betrayal to not only myself, but to the community, that they did choose to protect him and his family, while my family were the ones that were suffering and under attack. And he ultimately is not the victim. He is the cause of what happened.
Yeah, it's an improper manipulation of Marcy's law.
Very
And, Florida has, a sad history with these types of statutes. As right now, we all know stand your ground law, the 4th DCA just ruled, applies to police officers. So we're just in a very bad situation legally in Florida, where officers who commit excessive force and violence against citizens are protected under Marcy's law, which a non-lawyer can tell that that's an improper use of the Marcy's law, and also improper use of stand your ground, which is not at issue in this case, but it's important. It's an important thread to demonstrate that police officers are using these laws that are to protect citizens, to protect themselves when they commit these acts.
And I think the other point that is so important is that these laws are being used in certain communities. Because we don't see 13-year-olds being killed in Palm Beach Gardens and other places around this country. We do not see the George Floyd's and the Breonna Taylor situations happening to white people and to white children. And I think that's something that just has to be stated for fact. If you can show us a record of where these things are happening, first of all, we would show up and fight for those individuals as well, because excessive force of a police officer is wrong no matter who it happens to. But we know that there is no comparison in the record, and that you will not be able to find other Stanley Davis III's around this nation that do not look like young Black kids.
Does anybody know what the policy for Boynton Beach Police, the chase policy is? Because it varies from municipality to municipality. Do we know what they?
So a high-speed police chase in Boynton Beach cannot be conducted unless they are chasing somebody in the instance of a forcible felony. In this case, there's no forcible felony. We're talking about home invasions, carjackings. This is a 13-year-old riding on a dirt bike. So absolutely, it was improper and unlawful for Officer Sohn to follow and to chase Stanley Davis III.
Given the fact that this officer has been involved in multiple incidents like this, are you at all looking at the city itself? Because it seems like that behavior was allowed to fester to the point where people are dying.
Yes, of course. Today we are addressing and calling for the termination of Officer Sohn, but mark our words and please believe we seek to hold the city officials accountable at the highest levels, and that will be the subject of future action.
Are you going to request that federal intervention also, somebody else comes in and looks at it from a different perspective? Because they usually run hand in hand in these cases.
Yes, absolutely.
We actually did that at the city council meeting a couple of weeks ago to call for federal intervention to the Justice Department, but I think it must have fallen on deaf ears.
Can you talk a little bit about what you know was happening in those moments, what your son was doing, what, you know, I know you weren't physically there, but just kind of give us what you all want the public to know about what was happening.
All that we need the public to know about what was happening in that moment is that there was a 13-year-old little boy riding on a dirt bike who deserved the highest protection of the police officers with a mindset of saving and preserving his life. And that's all the comment we want to make about exactly what was transpiring. As I stated before, he was not committing any forcible felony, and the officer had no reason to conduct a chase that endangered and subsequently took his life.
Was he alone? Was he with a group of others? Was he with friends?
We're not going to make any further comments on that today.
We saw the video from the gas station. You see Stanley and the police officer, they go in a frame, come back in frame, Stanley hangs the left to go north. Is there more video after that moment, perhaps dash cam or other video that would show what happened in the next 5 to 15 seconds?
We've certainly fought hard to obtain additional video. So far, we have not obtained any video footage. I cannot confirm or deny whether or not it exists. I know Boynton Beach Police Department has told us that their dash cam was not working, but that doesn't mean that there wasn't any other video that captured the incident.
Do you have confidence that the Florida Highway Patrol will be able to conduct a fair investigation?
We hope that the Florida Highway Patrol will conduct a fair and impartial investigation. It's not what we've seen in the past from Florida Highway Patrol. In many instances, these investigations are lip service, but I will say this, we're not going to depend solely on the state of Florida to hold Boynton Beach accountable. We're going to take it above them as well.
Can you comment on police pursuits in general? Is this a problem that police needs to address?
Police pursuits all over the country are a problem, and as Tamika Mallory stated earlier, it's a problem in Black communities. And so throughout the country, we see a pattern, historic pattern and practice of police officers conducting high-speed police chases that lead to the death of African Americans. As she stated earlier, these are not practices that are typically utilized in white communities. And oftentimes we end up with victims. Ben and I worked on a case of a Black nun who was killed during a high-speed police suit in Harlem. And this was 10 or 15 years ago. So it absolutely is a problem throughout our nation.
What's your understanding of the officer's position with the department today?
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Sorry, what's your understanding of the officer's position within the department today?
He's at work. That's why we asked him for him to be fired. He's at the job. He could be pursuing one of y'all on your way home today. And that's the
He's
problem.
not on some administrative
No.
task a lot of
No.
times they do that where you're on a desk.
No, he is down to the job right now.
Is there a Black community in fear of Boynton Beach police? Because, I mean, there's a pattern you're talking about here. There's a history dating back to the early 2000s. Does the community, are they aware of what's going on?
Of course, because they're the ones whose bodies are piling up. So the Boynton Beach community is not coming to us as lawyers. They're not coming to Tamika as activists and trying to make a national movement because they feel safe in their community. They feel absolutely unsafe. And, you know, I know Boynton Beach is going to come out with their statement and they're going to talk about Mark Son as a rotten apple, which we always discuss. He's not a rotten apple. He is a symptom of an illness that is happening across the country in police agencies. He's a symptom that's not being treated. And the people who are suffering are Black people. That's why we're here. You know, this is not meant to be a bulk practice. We're not glad to be here. We're here because the cities will not hold these officers accountable to properly deter them from taking these actions against Black citizens. And it has to stop somewhere. I don't know where, but it has to stop somewhere.
Has anyone given you a reason for the reason why he has not been fired or?
No.
Can you tell us a little bit about your son and your favorite memories?
Yeah. Yes, I just want to say my son was a bright student, a bright child. He's an honor roll scholar student, being at that. Sorry.
That's not.
But he was 13 years old. That's the bottom line. He's a baby. He was a baby.
I just want to, it's hard because that was my only child, and you know, there's so many fond memories around him. He was just funny, charismatic, smart, enjoyed life. There's so many memorable moments that surround him. I can't pinpoint one because just being around him alone is just memorable.
And did you ever feel like it was necessary to have the talk with your son before this happened? Did you ever feel like you should warn him or talk to him about how to conduct himself around the police officer, or how do you know, the things that a lot of people don't know they have to have that talk with their children? You did. Did you ever have that conversation with him?
Absolutely, and I think that's where this story is getting misconstrued. My son was well informed, you know, to abide by the law. He was well informed. Had any of this occurred, to just pull over, because these things can be replaced. These are materialistic items. His life cannot be replaced. And this incident, my son was only going to get gas. Let's clarify that. And he was acting in fear. As a community, fear this officer. The kids, they know this officer. So him coming in contact with this particular officer was a fearful moment for him.
There's an election in Boynton Beach a week from today. There's going to be some new people on city council, and what do you want them to know about this? Then also, do you think that the Boynton Beach Police Department should be disbanded and perhaps have PSO or some other entities take over?
I think Sue Ann Robinson made a good point earlier when she referred to this specific officer as a rotten apple. And I think we all know apples don't fall far from the tree. And so this issue is a systemic issue, and absolutely Attorney Benjamin Crumb, Sue Ann Robinson, Tamika Mallory, Shannon Thompson, and Stanley Davis are going to seek to hold the city commissioners accountable for the misconduct, not only of Officer Stone, because he is one person, but for the systemic racism and police brutality that is levied against Black people in Boynton Beach from the top down.
All done for questions?
Was there a community meeting that was supposed to happen that got canceled sometime this week?
I think we don't know the status of it right now.
No. No.
Ms. Mallory, if you don't mind, have you gotten, we talk about how 99% of cops are good, it's the 1%. Have you gotten any support or any help or any cooperation from the good 99% of cops?
Well, that number is high, 99%, number one. And I think there are officers who work within the movement as well. We see officers showing up. However, it's not about them. You know, this is a systemic issue. And it has to be corrected on a much higher level than individual officers.
And that's kind of the question is, have you seen any systemic response to you other than police unions is one thing?
The systemic response is lacking. We should not even be sitting here. In fact, I believe that the federal government should be, first of all, they should pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. So that's number one. But beyond that, I think that the federal government should be intervening across the nation because there is a very clear pattern and practice, as I have heard my partners here say. And so, you know, I think, again, we can't depend on individual officers. And we also know that there are officers who are afraid working within the system to even report what they see. In New York, for instance, we have officers who have been whistleblowers to come forward and talk about the systemic issues within the NYPD. And those officers have been ostracized. They have been harmed greatly. And so this is about the system. It's not about individual people.
And we do also just want to give an opportunity for Stanley Davis Jr., the father of Stanley Davis III, to address the press and do what we've all done here today, which is to call for the termination of Officer Stone and to really reiterate the fact that if Officer Stone had been fired in the past, his son would still be alive today.
Can you please move the microphones towards them?
Yeah, we've been going back and forth with the city commission and the city about this incident. The same officer been terrorizing our community for 20 plus years. I remember multiple incidents I had with him years ago. I remember him from high school, and it's been the same situation time and time again. Boynton seems to doesn't feel like it's a problem with what's going on and the way our community being policed on a daily basis. Like I said, the multiple incidents. Cyrus Deal, I know him personally. The kid Jaden father, I know him personally, and it's like things won't change. If we don't start now, it won't change. As you can see, it's been a pattern for over 20 years. I'm quite sure you guys seen this file and know that this is stuff that continues to happen. If it was any consequence behind his actions, he'd have been stopped what he was doing long ago. But being that it's no consequence, it's just like, you know, free for all. Whatever goes on, goes on. People in that community being terrorized daily. We have no help, we have no voice. And now, we feel like we have a voice, we feel like we have hope, we have a great lawyer, a team of lawyers with us, we have a whole community behind us, not just our community, it's the neighboring communities that's partnering with us as well to get the justice that we're seeking. Not only my child, the previous individuals before us, and hopefully it won't happen again. So, you know, we standing united with the community to push forward for justice for not only our child, but for the previous victims.
And I think we're going to end on that note of hope, as Stanley Davis Jr. just said. And it's no mistake that Tamika Mallory and her co-founders organization is called Until Freedom. Because despite how bad the situation, despite how often police officers kill and terrorize Black communities, we will always be there to fight for racial equality, for just treatment until freedom. Absolutely. Thank you all.
Attorney Rand, you are now officially on the board of Until Freedom.
We're gonna amend that.
Yes, Until Justice, that's right. You are official member.